up working well. All right. I think I go Swampert here, right? 2. Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well as we're closing in towards the end of Season 8 of GBL. I've been using a team in Ultra League Premier that's pretty much got me positive sets in almost every single set except for maybe 3 or 4. So very consistent climbs with this team, and it's really an idea that I gathered from a popular Great League team, which is Skarmory, G-Fist, and Swampert. Flyer Double Ground has a lot of great coverage, and I decided to run it with Mandibuzz in my team, mainly because of its bulk and also a lot of its positive neutral matchups. And the other reason is I actually don't even have a Skarmory for Ultra League, so I can't really run that as a similar option. But I do like the Mandibuzz variant as well because it has much more play against Talonflame too. If you had the choice to best buddy one of these mons, I would best buddy the G-Fist. I unfortunately don't have it best buddy because I only recently made it, but I do have my Mandibuzz best buddy in a few of these clips. Now I know this team is a little bit more on the XL expensive side, but most top teams in Ultra League Premier these days are, so that's kind of unavoidable. I would say if you have to replace Mandibuzz with anything, I think Gyarados is probably the best replacement. I thought about a lot of the other options, and I think Gyarados is probably still the most reliable one. Skarmory could be good as well. I just wasn't able to test Skarmory myself, but I was testing Gyarados, and it did okay as a replacement. If you don't have a G-Fist, I would replace it with Excadrill. I don't have one for Ultra League, so I wasn't able to test it out, but one of my patrons did use Excadrill and was able to succeed quite a bit with it. Before we get into the footage, a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons who've been supporting my content creation. If you would also like to have early access to some of my strategies and lineups, feel free to sign up in the Patreon link down below. Getting into the matchups, we have Alolan Ninetales in the first one, which is probably the hardest lead to go against. Regardless of Powder Snow or Charm, it's just going to be kind of brutal. And so my opponent here does come in with a Politoed. Now Politoed's matchup versus Swampert is kind of an interesting one. If you land that Earthquake, you actually could flip this matchup. And so that's something really to keep in mind if you're the Politoed user, right? If you're the Swampert user, you know your win cons, but you have to understand as a Politoed user why it's important to shield that Earthquake. Obviously, it also could be a 50-50 call. They might bait with a Hydro Cannon first, right? So that's also bad news. But at this point, I know I can win this matchup if I just take out the Politoed and go to 2 shields, right? Now I have switch advantage, and now I get the G-Fist lined up with a Ninetales, right? So this Ninetales user is going to try to farm me down here, or do quite a bit of farm, I guess. But they're going to get hit with a Hydro Cannon first, which is kind of unfortunate. It looked like they undercharged that Weather Ball, which I don't think really paid off for them because now they get hit with another Hydro Cannon. So this Ninetales is almost out of commission at this point. And then here comes the Talonflame. So Talonflame actually does beat G-Fist with shields up, but shields are down, and I do still have a full health Mandibuzz, and you know, if it's Spray Bird, no big deal. Mandibuzz can tank it quite well. I'm just going to throw the Foul Play right here, not farm it down, just because why risk it when the Ninetales is like one shot away. So able to still win. Really disastrous lead there. All of these matchups are pretty much in the 3300s and above. So, you know, any misplace you see, like it happens, right? You know, like there are times where like even the best players in the world will have misplays, but that's just something to keep in mind when you're seeing these battles, right? But yeah, so going into this matchup, this is kind of bad for me. I really want that G-Fist on the Swampert, on the Skarmory, and the Surf Edge actually does have a lot of play against my Swampert as well, but they do decide to let it go. And now I have switch advantage, but I'm going to willingly give that up because G-Fist is very good against Dragonite. It's also very good against Skarmory, so why give the Dragonite extra farm? I do leave with a Hydro Cannon, and my opponent actually has Draco Meteor, which honestly is probably the best move they can have in this situation because it does a huge chunk of damage. But I'm going to throw these Rock Slides as soon as possible. I might have made a misplay here because this ends up being Brave Bird. Oh no, I actually do make it out alive, actually. G-Fist is kind of really bulky in Ultra League. As you can see, my opponent here actually goes for double Brave Birds, doing quite a bit of damage. They do decide to shield and preserve their Skarmory. I'm going to go straight for this Foul Play here, and I probably get KO'd. Or no, actually I don't get KO'd because, again, it's a Mandibuzz. Going for the Foul Play right there. I do swap in quickly into my G-Fist because I don't want them to farm too much energy here. And remember, I had a Hydro Cannon Banks on my Swampert. It has like 2 HP left, but having that Hydro Cannon banked really ended up saving this matchup for me, because I know I'm going to win CMP there against Skarmory, even if I had a Sky Attack ready. So yeah, super close one, but definitely a really fun matchup there as well. Now, against Dragonite, so this is kind of an interesting one. You really want G-Fisk against this Dragonite, but at the same time, you can't really swap right away, because otherwise Swampert is not going to be able to take it out later on, right? So what I like to do is bring it down low enough so it's in Hydro Cannon range, right? So now it's in Hydro Cannon range. I draw the fighter. Really smart play by my opponent, actually not to shield there, because they don't need a shield to take me out. And now I have little to farm off of, but they also don't get any moves off of me, on me, which is nice. Here comes the Talonflame. So they have the alignment they want. So what I need to do here is probably going to drop, actually no, I don't even drop a move here. I'm just going to farm up a bunch of extra energy here. I'm going to let this Dragon Claw go through. Dragon Claw is obviously going to do some damage, but really I want to watch out for that Brave Bird on the Talon, right? So my opponent does shield and get another move off. So at this point, oh, I actually let the next Dragon Claw go through too. That's kind of interesting. I guess I was just scared that the Talonflame was just going to hit me with Flame Charges, and I'd rather save the 2 shield for my Mandibuzz. So I'm going to go in. Sorry, my cows are hopping off of me. I'm going to just charge up to double Foul Place here, and then I'm going to shield this Flame Charge and then throw a double Foul Place. Of course, you can always run Mandibuzz with Dark Pulse, but this is why I like Foul Play. Sometimes you just need to spam your ability of Foul Play over Dark Pulse, even though Dark Pulse is fairly still spammable as well. But yeah, able to come out with a win there. So opposing Mandibuzz, it looks like this one's actually running Snarl too, so I do have a slight advantage. Again, it's kind of similar to the Dragonite matchup. You don't really want to swap out right away because G-Fisk has a good matchup against it, but at the same time, you don't really want to stay in too long, right? So my opponent actually swaps out on their own, which is kind of nice, because it's bringing the Politoed here. This might be a Blizzard, so I'm going to shield it, and it is. Again, Blizzard's going to hurt a lot more than Aerial Aces from Mandibuzz. Now, something I noticed when I've been playing a lot of Ultra League Premier recently is that there's a lot of Mandibuzz double water teams. So they come back in with Mandibuzz. I'm going to let this move go. I'm going to come in with Swampert here and see what happens. So I'm going to tank some moves. I knew they had a lot of energy, so I want to tank all the energy as much as possible. And now I come with Swampert. Swampert is really solid safe swap in most situations, outside of obviously some grass, but even some grass that has a lot of play against to do some chip damage. But my whole goal is to draw out whatever it is in the back, in case it's something that checks the G-Fist, right? So my opponent is staying in here still, which is interesting. So I'm just going to keep staying here. They are running Dark Pulse as well. It'll take them a little bit longer to get to their moves. Obviously, I think I'm an Aerial Ace at this range, so I wanted to throw a little bit sooner. And they actually have their own Swampert, so Shadow Swampert right here. So this is really good. So as predicted, they had Mandibuzz double water, right? I'm going to throw these Foul Plays here. Hopefully get at least a shield here from my opponent. They actually don't shield, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to not shield this. I know I survived this Hydro Cannon, so they're probably going to just start trying to throw another one. At this point, I'm going to shield and just throw the Aerial Ace, Air Slashes, and they're going to concede. So they didn't even see this G-Fist, but I think, you know, that's something you always have to keep in mind of when you see a Mandibuzz lead and a water as a safe swap. Very good chance of running double water in this meta. Alright, Empoleon. Empoleon is probably one of the hardest mons to deal with this team because it's a core breaker. So it beats Mandibuzz, especially because I'm not running Snarl. It beats G-Fisk, and it could beat Swampert. So pretty much you just have to stay in. Luckily I was able to draw a shield there, but now they're close within Hydro Cannon range. So I'm going to shield the first one. I probably will get hit by another Hydro Cannon, but my opponent actually swaps out here, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to swap, throw an Earthquake here, draw that last shield, and then come in with my G-Fisk. It looks like they went straight for the Aqua Tail, so I'm not going to shield it. And I'm now going to come in with G-Fisk here. G-Fist is going to do very solid against this Dragology. Obviously, Aqua Tails are super effective, but Dragon Tails are resisted. I have farm up to pretty much close to 100 energy. This way I have a little bit of energy to play with against this Empoleon here. And I go straight for another Earthquake here. No time to mess around with Rock Slide because it's not going to be enough to KO. And then they actually come in with a Heracross, which is kind of an interesting mon. I can't get to Earthquake in time. Plus, Earthquake is resisted, I believe, because of the bug typing, whereas Rock Slide is neutral because of fighting and the bug typing combo. So now it looks like they're doubling up on close combats, but I snuck in a mud shot right before they got off the first charge move, which I knew that I was going to KO them after. Even if they didn't beat me there, my mud shot from the G-Fist would have taken it out. All right, so Politoed lead, kind of a weird one, especially if they're running Blizzard, which this one is. It's kind of a gamble if you want to shield the first one or not. I've seen some throw a Weather Ball and then throw a Blizzard, so you know they might be baiting themselves. I just decided to take the risk there. And then so my opponent here comes in Nidoqueen. Anytime Nidoqueen safe swaps in, I always bring a Swampert, right? Main reason behind this is because the pairing between G-Fist and Mandibuzz I think is a little bit better, but also not a lot of things want to come in and receive a Hydro Cannon, right? I knew their Politoed was going to take a lot of damage. They can't really farm me there. They actually come in with Abomasnow here, which is fine too. But as you can see, even Abomasnow taking a lot of damage from triple Hydro Cannons here, right? Taking a ton of damage. But now I have a lineman I want. Abomasnow is kind of tricky for his team too, but if I get it matched up against G-Fist, I'm in a pretty okay spot. So my opponent here does come back in with the Politoed. I'm going to throw a Rock Slide here. Really, the main reason is to chip it down. It actually wasn't even a catch by them. I needed to put it down low enough so that the Mandibuzz has an easier time to deal with this. So I'm going to let these Weather Balls go through. Definitely not... seemed unlikely to be a Blizzard. It definitely could have been. Kind of a gamble. But now I bring it to... yeah, so now I'm going to have to double shield anyway, so I guess it didn't really matter if I called it bait initially or not. But my opponent here actually does decide to snipe me down with a Weather Ball. Pretty solid play by them. They still have a shield left, and I'm going to take a decent amount of damage from these Weather Balls. So I think my play here is just to farm it down. Obviously, I didn't even have a chance to get to a move. I just need to get the double Rock Slide at this point. The Politoed I knew was pretty much energy dry because I threw most of his energy on my Mandibuzz. Just one mud shot away from this next Rock Slide and able to get to it. So definitely an interesting matchup. Mandibuzz is not the best against a lot of the waters, even like Swampert. That's a lot of damage, right? So we're going to see the Shadow Swampert lead right here. The mud shots are pretty much resisted, but you know, it's the bulk of the damage from these mud shot users are from the charge moves anyway. So even if the mud shots aren't doing a ton of damage, it doesn't really matter, right? Hydro Cannon, really solid move. Weather Ball from Politoed, super spammy, also a really solid move. And even though Mandibuzz is pretty bulky, it's going to take these pretty harshly. Now my opponent actually here comes in with a Crobat here. It looks very obvious that threw a Poison Fang for some reason. So I don't really mind that too much. I'm just going to throw these Rock Slides to really handle it quite well. I do farm up a little extra. I don't really want the Swampert to have too much farm against me. And I know that I still survive a Shadow Ball even when debuffed. So I'm going to throw a Rock Slide at 100 energy just so that I could have something to throw potentially at this Swampert here. So the Swampert does come back in, and I make an interesting play here. Looking back on it, I'm not really sure about this, but I decided to swap in my Mandibuzz back in. Now, the main reason behind this is they had a Crobat in the back. And it took them a while to swap to it, so I had a feeling that they didn't have a strong Mandibuzz counter. And I just want to pull it out and see what happens. I didn't really want my G-Fist to take too much damage or get farmed down too much from their Swampert, because I knew that Swampert with energy is going to do a lot of work against my Mandibuzz too, right? So and then my opponent here actually doesn't shield, which makes sense because I probably got that next Hydro Cannon pretty quickly. And then now I'm going to just throw this Rock Slide to really chip it down. They very much have to throw the energy at this point and able to mud shot it down. All right, Lapras. Speaking of core breakers with Empoleon, Lapras is definitely a core breaker as well. It beats Swampert, it beats Mandibuzz, and it has play against G-Fist. So kind of a tough one. Now, the reason why this team works so well, and maybe specifically at my ELO range, possibly at other ELO ranges might not be the same, is that Lapras and Empoleon are much less common these days because of the onslaught of G-Fisk. I don't know why I said onslaught, but the increase of G-Fisk, or not G-Fisk, sorry, Jellicent and Ferrothorn. A lot of Ferrothorns too in the meta. I think some of this footage doesn't show as many Ferrothorns, but there's a lot of Ferrothorns. I just didn't include as much just because you know, it just got repetitive after a while. But as you can see here, my opponent is in a pretty okay spot here still. So I'm going to try to take out this Talon. I knew I survived that Flame Charge, and they're going to hit me with a second one. I couldn't get to another one in time. So at this point, I'm going to just farm this down. But yeah, this Mandibuzz is not going to do enough damage to this Lapras. Full health. not much I could do here, so I'm gonna just let the Surf go. It doesn't really matter too much here, and pretty much just concede this match. I think I'm just throwing Foul Play just to see just how close I could bring this to, but it seemed very unlikely at this point. Yeah, if they're going to throw another Surf either way, yep, that's gonna be game. All right, so Jellicent in the lead, definitely a favorable one, and the coming Gyarados, so definitely something I want to swap straight away to my G-Fist here. G-Fist does get to these rock sites pretty quickly. 2 will be enough. I could definitely tank maybe 3 Aqua Tails, at least 2. So I'm gonna farm up a little extra here in case they let this go, just so that I have a little bit of energy for this Jellicent. So they're going to let that Gyarados go. Let's see what they come back in with. They actually come back in with a Scrafty. Now, I never recommend people coming back in with a third Mon if their first Mon can check it. I know they wanted to get a little head start on energy here, but the thing is, now they revealed their third Mon, and I don't think they really needed to. I guess I can understand the rationale, because Scrafty is the only thing that's going to be able to beat the Mandibuzz at this point, so they want to get a little head start on these Power Punches. So, but at the same time, I don't really mind too much. This gives Swampert way more utility now. And now that shields are down, I'm going to come back in with Mandibuzz. Obviously, these Power Punches are going to start adding up. But I still have a shield. I have a ton of health left, and they don't have shields. And so these Air Racers are going to do a ton of damage. I'm going to just farm this down and not shield, just in case they do have Ice Beam. Ice Beam will do a decent amount of damage. And maybe they're trying to catch here, but at the end of the day, like, there's no reason why I was going to throw. I'm just going to go straight for the farm down and then Foul Plays on the Jellicent here. Alright, so they do have, I think that's Bubble Beam, and that's fine. I am going to come back in with my Swampert to really finish off this Jellicent. They actually go for a Shadow Ball, but I actually get to my Foul Play in time. Shadow Ball was a smart play because it does do a little bit more damage than Bubble Beam. But unfortunately, just not enough health left on that Scrafty to make much of it. Alright, Nidoqueen. So I like to swap straight into G-Fist here. G-Fist, again, pretty solid safe swap, as I mentioned in my Ultra League Remix video. Now, this is why you definitely want the Best Buddy variants. Best Buddy can actually beat Scrafty shields down. It's a little bit tricky without the Best Buddy, but that's why my opponent there actually shielded. So as you can see here, I'm kind of short on the Earthquake, so if I had a Best Buddy, I would have gotten to a second Earthquake, right? Now, the reason I say that is because if they didn't shield, then I actually would have beaten the Scrafty in 0 shields. So as you can see there, I wasn't able to even get to that second Earthquake. Had I been able to, then that would have been a decent amount of damage on that Scrafty. Unfortunately, now the Scrafty has still a decent amount of life left, but it gives me a little bit more time to farm, which is not too bad. As you can see here, I'm trying to swap to my Swampert to get a slight energy lead against my opponent here. Now, going straight for this Earthquake here, you know, Hydro Cannon is okay baits, but it's kind of risky, especially if they don't shield. I choose not to shield this, and ends up being Bubble Beam, which I think end up panning out well. I knew I survived the Shadow Ball either way. Now I'm going to shield just in case this one's a Shadow Ball. Unfortunately, it's another Bubble Beam, but that's fine. I am going to throw another Earthquake here, and my timer's almost up on my Mandibuzz, so I'm going to swap here, hopefully to catch, and I do catch a Shadow Ball, which is really nice, because now this gives the Nidoqueen very little farm. A very obvious Poison Fang, which is kind of interesting, but it makes it easier for me because I'm not going to shield it. I'm going to go straight for the Earthquake because Hydro Cannon is not enough to take out a regular Nidoqueen. It is enough to take out Shadow. Build up straight to the Earthquake. Just to be safe, I'm pretty sure Hydro Cannon wouldn't be enough to KO it, so it'll put me a few more shots short. But go straight for it because I still have the shield, and yeah, able to win out, even though I got locked into a Scrafty backline matchup with my G-Fist. And a Jellicent versus Swampert, actually. They had 2 really solid checks to my backline and a okay neutral matchup in the lead, right? So, G-Fist leads. You want to swap to your G-Fist right away, right? You want the Swampert on this if possible. My opponent actually doesn't shield this, which is kind of interesting. Now, I'm kind of hoping that they make a mistake here and shield this Rock Slide, but they actually call that bait really well, even though I had the Earthquake. So, I'm forced to double shield here, but I feel okay about that double shield, you know? I wouldn't switch. They actually lock in their Gyarados here, once this is locked in, I'm just going to swap out, so I still have my G-Fist for whatever I might need in the back end. Mandibuzz, very, very solid against Gyarados, because you just do so much more neutral damage compared to their neutral damage. And my thought process of swapping Mandibuzz back in is just in case they have another Mandibuzz check, right? Because they didn't really swap out when I brought in my G-Fist, so I figured maybe they have another check, so they're not too worried about the Mandibuzz. Soft check with Dragonite, but at that point, they're going to concede because they just didn't really have the alignment they wanted. Alright, so Galvantula lead, I like to swap straight to Swampert. Main reason behind that is because G-Fist is a much better check to Galvantula. Galvantula lunges still do quite a bit of damage. My opponent here actually is pretty, knows this matchup pretty well and does shield the Earthquake. That's also not to say the previous opponent didn't know the matchup. They might just thought I was baiting with the Earthquake. I'm speaking about the one Politoed matchup where they let the Earthquake go through. So as you can see, still able to do a decent amount of damage, but there's no way I outpace this Politoed at this point, so I'm going to let the Swampert go. And then I'm just going to just shield this potential Blizzard because it's going to do a decent amount of damage. And then farm up a bunch of energy here. So I'm getting ready for this Galvantula because 2 Foul Plays will do still a decent amount of damage. But they actually come in G-Fist here. So I'm going to come in my own G-Fisk and then go for the Earthquake here. Now, the reason why I have to do that Foul Play is because usually a G-Fist Earthquake is not enough to KO opposing G-Fist, right? Unless they have low health or it's not powered up or something, right? So that Foul Play is now putting it within Earthquake range. They did a great catch to catch my Earthquake on their Galvantula, but at this point, I decide I'm just going to farm it down. My opponent doesn't have Earthquake ready yet, so I'm just going to farm up to 100 energy and throw as many Earthquakes as possible. Now, the main thing is Mandibuzz still has a decent matchup against G-Fist with this health range, and they actually don't shield, and then I'm going to just build another Earthquake. Even double debuffed, still does a decent amount of damage. I think they can concede at that point because it still had shield, but I had a lot of health on my Mandibuzz still, right? Which was just not going to be enough for them to deal with. Alright, Ferrothorn lead. Definitely a positive lead because Ferrothorn has really solid matchups against G-Fist and an even better matchup against Swampert. Now, this opponent swaps in Dragology, which might be a fairly more common safe swap. I mean, it's fairly expensive, but if they have it, a lot of people use it as a safe swap. I decided to bring in G-Fist here because, as you can see, you're resisting all of this Dragon Tail damage. My opponent actually decides to double shield the Earthquakes. Not a bad play by them because now they win switch. So I decided to come in with my Swampert here. Looks like a very obvious Aqua Tail, but it actually is an Outrage because I'm just bad at counting. So I do throw a Hydro Cannon here. It is going to put it quite low. It actually is enough to KO, and here comes the Galvantula. A little bit of lag there, but I do get the Foul Play off before they throw a debuff move. Most will probably throw Lunge at this point, so I had to shield this anyway because it's going to do way more damage than this Ferrothorn is going to do, and so I get to another Foul Play here. Hopefully enough to KO this Galvantula. Just not enough, but I think they overtapped there because they threw a Volt Switch instead of throwing their move. So I'm going to farm up a bunch of energy here. I had to just hope that this is not a Flash Cannon and it ends up being just a Mirror Shot, which is nice. Now, I throw this Hydro Cannon to do some chip damage, but also to clear those debuffs. Now, yeah, I gave him some little extra energy, but I know for a fact that those Mirror Shots are not going to do enough. I had to shield something anyway, so I'm going to shield it. And then, yeah, I'm going to throw these Foul Plays. And fortunately, they are running Mirror Shot. If they're running Thunder, which is very unlikely, it's more likely they're running Flash Cannon as an alternative move to Mirror Shot, I would have been in trouble. But luckily, I was able to win out this matchup because they are running that Mirror Shot. Actually, almost timed out too. All right, Shadow Abomasnow. Abomasnows in general. Another Core Breaker. Not nearly as scary, I think, just because you can see those Air Slashes doing a ton of damage, right? Obviously, these Weather Balls and Powder Stones are going to do a lot of damage as well. So I do force a shield from my opponent here. Now, the main thing is I really want this G-Fisk matched up against this Mandibuzz. Or sorry, up against Abomasnow. But I'm going to shield there, and then they actually swap out here. Now, I don't know about the swap here on my end. Pelipper, definitely kind of a rarer Pokemon in Ultra League, so I kind of got a little befuddled there, to be honest. But I feel like it plays similar to the Great League matchup, but G-Fist might be slightly bulkier. And as you can see, actually does tank that second Weather Ball. So I end up, I don't know, that might have been a slight misplay. I think I would have lost CMP anyway if I went for the Rock Slide there. So I decided to just let it go. They had to throw 3 Weather Balls at me though, which is not too bad. And then I quickly swapped to farm down the Pelipper, but my opponent actually does a great swap to Machamp as well. You know, unfortunately, Machamp is going to outpace my Swampert here and take me out. So that's oh wait, they still have a shield. Either way, they still have a Abomasnow, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, they still have a shield, but they're gonna farm me down with Abomasnow. They can probably just shield this. Technically, don't even need to shield it, and then have the move ready for my Mandibuzz. So yeah, definitely a tough team to face for sure. But I think if you do face any Abomasnow, you gotta stay in and hope that you have some solid matchups in the back. All right, so going into this matchup here, Talonflame, I like to go straight Rock Slide. But against this Politoed, I decided to bait because I figured a lot of Politoeds were shielding Earthquakes, but this Politoed actually didn't even shield the Earthquake, possible Earthquake. So I go straight for another Earthquake, and they don't shield. Smart, no shield by them, but what I realized is I got a mud shot through right when they threw its Weather Ball. So I figured if I shield this, I actually can still win this matchup. So I ended up flipping it because they let all those moves go through on the Politoed, and I get a shield back. So this is huge. I can really flip this matchup around. They have an Umbreon here. I'm going to come in Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz beats Umbreon, especially with Air Slash, but also they might be running Psychic Umbreon, and they're going to concede the match right there because they didn't really have the alignment they wanted, unfortunately. So yeah, so really important to know how to play out G-Fist matchups versus a lot of the common counter swaps such as Politoed, Swampert, Fighters, etc. Swampert is kind of a harder one to win, but Politoed, which is fairly common, is easier to win. All right, so again, they come in Nidoqueen, you go in Swampert. You go in G-Fist, it's okay, but usually speaking, it's going to be harder for you. Go straight for that Earthquake. Now you got Hydro Cannons to spam at the Obstagoon, which is going to be a great time because that's still going to do a ton of damage. And they either have a shield here or take a bunch of damage, and yeah, and they pretty much can't really counter you down, so I'm going to let this go. Now they're down shields, and they don't have switch advantage, and they have a bunch of damage on their Obstagoon. So they're going to throw the cross traps here. Definitely watch out for potential Hyper Beam Obstagoons. That'll happen once in a while, but you know, it is what it is. I still don't usually shield the Mandibuzz in those situations. So they're still staying in here, and then let's see what they have in the back here. So I'm just gonna, I don't mind just trying to farm this thing down. They do throw a cross trap. I actually have a sliver of health left on the Mandibuzz. They actually have Talonflame in the back. So in this situation, having my Swampert in the back might have been a little bit better, right? It has a much better matchup against Talonflame here, but I do have a shield advantage, so that's kind of nice. And I'm going to double shield this, and then throw these moves at the Talonflame here. I decided to throw a little early just in case they choose not to shield, so I have a little more health for the Obstagoon, but at the same time, they end up still shielding, so that's fine. And then this Obstagoon is going to CMP me on this move here, takes me out with Cross Shot, but I still had that move ready on the Mandibuzz, able to narrowly win this one. Most Obstagoon leads I actually win by a little bit larger of a margin, but I decided to include that one for fun, just because I think it was a more interesting matchup. A lot of Obstagoon matchups have, like, they don't usually have Talonflames in the back, they usually have like double poison or something like that, right? Again, similar team comp, you have a fighter in the lead or a dark counter use in the lead, and then you have a poison in the back, right? A lot of people like to safe swap their Nidoqueens, so again, go straight for that Earthquake. Again, these Hydro Cannons still going to hurt a ton. And so this Scrafty has to go foul play here, otherwise they get KO'd. And the opponent does make a smart play to go straight for the foul play. My opponent here actually has a Politoed in the back. Kind of interesting. So because of that, I'm going to say again, Mandibuzz has a much better matchup here. I do have to watch out for the potential Blizzard. The first one definitely wasn't a Blizzard, but who knows? They might be building up for a Blizzard after that. So I'm going to shield this next Weather Ball just to be safe. It ends up being a Weather Ball, but that's fine. And then I'm going to let this Weather Ball go through. Just want to play careful too in case they try to sack swap, and you know they do come in with the Scrafty here. So they do shield, which is perfect. I don't have to shield this Power Punch, and I'm going to take it out with Aerial Ace here. They do get to double Power Punches, but I'm going to save my shield for the G-Fisk. And then stay in this matchup still. No need to swap out. They need to throw a Weather Ball here to take me out, so I don't really mind just staying in here. They can farm all they want, but they still have to eventually throw. And then now I'm in a very, very good spot. Seems very likely to be a Weather Ball, so I'm going to let it go. Even if it's an Earthquake, I still survive it. I'm going to shield this next move just to be safe. Ahead by quite a bit, and they do go for the Earthquake, which is definitely their win con there. But still having that shield left over made it easier. All right, and Alright, sorry about that. So my camera memory card actually filled up, so I had to re-record this part. So anyway, going against a Shadow Machamp lead. So Shadow Machamp is a big reason amongst the other fighters why I am going Air Slash here. I can't remember if I already mentioned that or not because I had to restart this. My opponent actually does a really great catch onto their Muck here. So I am going to probably just go straight Hydro Cannon here. Earthquake seems like it might be a little overkill, but Hydro Cannon might be also a little bit short. So let's see here. So unfortunately, I am forced to shield here and go down 2 shields. But I have a bunch of energy left. So this Machamp pretty much has to shield my moves here if it wants to be able to kind of take out this Swampert. So I go for the double Hydro Cannon here. And I think hopefully I grab both shields again. Let's see. And then, yeah, perfectly timed cross chop by my opponent. Otherwise, I would have taken out the Machamp. But now I feel pretty good. However, my opponent here does have a Swampert in the back, and that's very good against my G-Fisk. So I think my plan is here is to throw the foul play, weaken enough. Let's see here. So I throw, yeah. I guess stay in here, throw another foul play, and just mud shot down and build up to Earthquake. I think that might be the play here. Hydro Cannon doesn't KO the G-Fisk, and I think they might be locked in here for a little bit longer, so I feel pretty good. And they do go straight for the Earthquake. Luckily, I get to my Earthquake as well, able to take out this Machamp, and then able to finish off the Swampert. So, claiming my rewards here and showing that I was able to climb up to 3460. Overall, I think it's a really good team, especially for those that are looking for that final push in the last few weeks of GBL Season 8. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a like and share, subscribe for future content, hit that notification bell to get alerted right when I post a new video, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.